So raise your hand if you've worried about something in the last few months. Keep your hand up if you've worried about something in the last few weeks. And how about the last 24 hours? I can relate. We all have a worry voice in our minds. And it's important that we name it and externalize it so we can have power over it and it's not the boss of us. I like to call this worry voice the worry imp. When I was writing my children's book on anxiety, I felt this character really explained the concept that the worries like to play tricks on our mind and bodies. I see children and teens for anxiety, and I've been counseling them for over 20 years. I've seen children as young as 4 years old who are gripped by anxiety and their parents don't know how to help. And I've seen teens whose lives have become more and more restricted. I once worked with a teen girl who I'll call Lisa. She explained that for her it was as though she was living in a glass jar. She was safe and protected, but she felt isolated. She wanted to break through, but she was too scared. She said her vision of reality was distorted. It was as though she was really looking through thick glass, and her worrying voice was strong. It sometimes stopped her from socializing, from going to public events, and she missed a lot of school. She wanted to stay in touch with her friends through social media, but she felt too much pressure to post the perfect picture with the perfect pose and the funniest caption. And she didn't want to care about how many followers she had or how many likes she had, but deep down she felt this is how she was being judged. And then she'd see her friends posting pictures all together, and she knew she wasn't included because she was inside this glass jar. And then she was in grade 12, and there was an unwritten rule at her school that as soon as you bought your grad dress, you had to post a picture of it so nobody could get the same one. These stressed out girls were taking their parents on long road trips, looking for that elusive, unique dress. Crazy, isn't it? Insecurity. Have you heard of this word? According to the Urban Dictionary, it means an excessive concern with one's social presence, influence, and/or likability. An insecurity about being on social media. This is how Lisa felt. And then I worked with a teen boy who I'll call Jack. He explained that his worrying voice was more like a Darth Vader voice. He had a constant stream of dark, negative thoughts telling him something bad was going to happen, and he couldn't stop these thoughts. He was scared to take public transportation, he was worried about leaving his neighborhood, and he was really worried there was going to be a big earthquake. The good news is that both Jack and Lisa found ways to shrink their worries by learning about 3 powerful mind shifts. The first important mind shift is to realize that normally we trust and listen to the signals that we get from our body and mind. These signals protect us. But there's an exception. Anxiety, the voice of the worry imp. If you're outside and it's freezing, you've got goosebumps, your teeth are chattering, it's true. You're cold and you need to put warm layers on. And if your stomach's growling and rumbling, it's true, you're hungry and you need to get some food. And if there's a fire in the building, this is a true emergency and you need to trust your instincts. You need to go into flight mode and you need to get out as quickly as possible. But with anxiety, it creates a false alarm. Think about test anxiety. It puts you into freeze mode and you're not in danger. You don't need protecting. This isn't helpful. This is one of those times where we don't want to listen to our mind and body. This worry imp likes to play tricks on us and set off false alarms, telling us to go into fight, flight, or freeze unnecessarily. You may have heard of this alarm part of the brain. It's called the amygdala. It acts on instinct. It tells us to go into fight, flight, or freeze to protect us. The problem is, it doesn't know the difference between a true emergency and a false alarm. So the first important mind shift is to ask ourselves when we're feeling worried or scared, is this a true emergency? Or is this a false alarm where I need to do the opposite of what my mind and body are telling me to do? This feels very counterintuitive, but this is the key to us being in control of the anxiety versus the worrying feeding off us and getting stronger and stronger. If we believe everything we think and feel, we lose our power. We feed our worries and we increase our anxiety. This connects to the second important mind shift, which is to realize the power of our thoughts. Our thoughts create our feelings. Our thoughts create our reality. Imagine that you're somebody who's uncomfortable with dogs, and you're at the beach, and all of a sudden you come across my golden retriever, Bailey. He's off leash, I'm not around, and he barks. And your worried voice thinks, this dog is vicious, he's going to bite me. You feel scared. You go into flight mode and you run and you leave the beach. But if you were someone who is comfortable with dogs, and the exact same thing happened, and you saw Bailey, this time you would think, he's so cute, because he is. And when he barks, he wants to play. Yeah, he wants you to throw him a stick. And this time, you're thinking, where's the owner? And you're concerned, and you're feeling compassionate, and you go over to him, and you pet him, and you look for a contact number. By switching our negative, fearful thoughts to more positive, trusting thoughts, we can feel more calm. In both these situations, Bailey was behaving in the exact same way. But by having opposite thoughts, it created completely different feelings, which led to completely different actions. Now imagine that you're 4 years old. You're at Disneyland, and you see Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse and all the other characters, and you're excited. It's magical. You believe in the magic. Your thoughts are telling you this is all real. But then you go back a few years later, and then you realize these characters are just people dressed up in costumes. And now you've broken through the illusion. You've seen the truth. You've seen the reality. If we live life through a fear-based lens, we will always be in survival mode. Our ancestors lived this way out of necessity. But we no longer need to. We all have anxiety, which is important for keeping us alert when true danger is upon us. But the belief that worrying all the time somehow keeps us safer is an illusion. We need to break through that illusion by using facts and evidence and see the truth. Remember Jack and his deep fear of earthquakes? He was seeing life through a negative, fear-based lens. He was caught in an illusion. He believed that somehow by worrying all the time that an earthquake might come, it was keeping him safer. But then he was able to break through that illusion and see the truth. And then he realized this worrying is serving no purpose. It's not keeping me safer. It's not stopping an earthquake from coming. Do you know the difference between anxiety and fear? Anxiety is about the future. It's about a perceived threat which may or may never happen. But fear is an immediate threat. It's happening right now. It's an emergency. Both Jack and Lisa learned that if they could pretend to have a remote control for the thoughts in their brain, they could tune out their worries. So imagine you turn on your TV and it's a horror show and you see a freaky vampire. You feel scared. So you change the channel and now you're on a comedy show and you're laughing and you feel happy. By changing our thoughts, we can change our emotions. Next time you're feeling worried, press the pause button and ask yourself, is this a true emergency or a false alarm? Will worrying about this actually help? And how can I change that channel in my brain from negative fear-based thinking to more positive, trustful thoughts? We can choose to live our life based on taking the path of worry or the path of trust. We don't know what our future holds, so we can worry our way there or we can trust our way there. Which one leads to a more fulfilling journey? And the third powerful mind shift is to realize that when we are experiencing big, uncomfortable emotions like the kind we get with anxiety, we don't have to react to them. In a moment, I'm going to ask you all to clap your hands together really hard and then just hold them apart a little bit and feel the sensations in your hands. Ready? 1. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay. Feel the tingling. Notice the sensations. You don't need to clap. You're being very silent. And you need to just notice the sensations. Notice the stinging. Notice the burning. And notice how these feelings fade away. When we've got these big feelings, we need to stay in the present. We need to take deep breaths. And we need to just observe our emotions and be a spectator instead of react to them. That's the shift. You see, our emotions are like a big wave. They rise, they peak, and they fall away. If we react and we get triggered, it's like we're out of control. It's like we're being tossed around by these waves. We might say or do things that we later regret. But if we stay in the present and take deep breaths, we can surf the wave of emotion. Like my daughter Gemma when she was younger, surfing the worry imp's wave. And like Jack and Lisa, they've both now broken through their glass jars. They've got their power back. And Jack says that he feels free. He's taking the SkyTrain to downtown Vancouver. He's exploring. He's not worried about earthquakes anymore. And Lisa, she still has anxiety from time to time, but she's got her go-to strategies, and she knows it's just the worry imp playing tricks on her. She's going to university, she's made friends, and she's decided social media is not for her. So let's commit to lessening the impact of the worry imp in all our lives by practicing these 3 strategies of 1, listening and trusting the signals that we get in our body and mind, except when it's the worries. 2, realizing the power of our thoughts. Our thoughts create our feelings. And 3, observing our big emotions instead of reacting to them. By implementing these 3 powerful mind shifts, we can build our own resilience and eventually create a shift in our culture from being less anxious and avoidant to more courageous and confident. We can all surf the wave of emotion. Thank you.